If you mention that somebody has previous convictions, but those convictions are spent, can they sue you? Simple answer is yes, they can. Section 8 of the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act 1974 basically states that, it's defamatory to reveal that somebody had a spent conviction. I mean, there are certain exemptions to that. I mean, first of all, you can consent to it. You can say, I'm happy for you to tell people that. Also, there are certain public interest type disclosures where it's not defamatory to reveal it. So if you get an enhanced DBS check, for instance, that will show all your spent convictions on there, and that's not defamatory. But yeah, generally speaking, and this comes from the comments, I won't even say it's a question from the comments because somebody just mentioned it, they already knew, but I thought you might find that interesting. So yeah, so there you go. Be very, very careful about saying somebody's a convicted criminal if those convictions are now spent. Right, how to pad this out a bit? I'll talk about spent convictions generally and spent cautions. I won't take too long on this. But what's the point of this? Well, the idea is that people should have a second chance in life, that something they did a long time ago shouldn't hound them forever and stop them being able to get employment and things like that. However, there are exceptions. There are some offences and some sentences that can never be spent. I mean, if you get a life sentence, that's never spent. And it sort of varies. What I'll do is I'll put a link to all the various ways that they look at this in the description, because I won't go through them all because it's quite complicated, and it all depends on whether you are under 18 at the time of the offence or over 18, and it all depends on, sometimes it's the nature of the offence and sometimes it's the sentence itself. So generally speaking, if you serve a longish sentence, like say you get some offences over 7 years, that can never be spent, but other things can be. And once those convictions are spent, then you don't have to, it's as if you never had them, save for things like, if you're applying for the police or the security services, they can ask you about spent convictions, but regular employers can't. And you don't have to say it, you don't have to mention it on your application form. Sometimes you get this with insurance forms as well. They'll say, please list any convictions, including spent ones. A bit of a debate as to whether they can or can't do that. But the argument is you're trying to buy the insurance, so you are consenting to releasing all the information about you. That's convictions. What about cautions? Because they can be spent as well. But what is a caution? A police caution, now this isn't the old, you have the right to remain silent, anything you do say, and all that sort of thing, it may harm your defence. That's the caution they give you, when they arrest you or when they question you. And I'll have to do a video on that actually, because a lot of people get that wrong because they think it's like Miranda rights, because you get everything from TV. So at some stage, remind me, I'll do a video on the police caution in the sense of the warning that you can stay silent, but if you do, it will hold it against you. But a caution is where it's not a conviction, but if they decide that an offence was relatively low level or there's something about your personal circumstances, they can offer you a caution. Nowadays, they'll also, if there's a victim in the case, they'll also consult with the victim and say, we're thinking about offering a caution, have you got any views? It's not actually ultimately up to the victim, but they do take their views into account. You don't have to accept a caution. You can say, no, I will fight this in court. But if you accept a caution, you are admitting you did the offence. And a caution is an admission of guilt. Unlike, say, a fixed penalty notice, you can accept a fixed penalty notice, and that isn't an admission. But if you accept a caution, you are admitting that. And that can become relevant, because although you would technically not have any previous convictions, you would previously be a person of bad character. So if you are on trial in future for a future offence, they can apply to say, we want to put the caution in because he's admitted that he's done an offence before. But to get bad character in, and that's another idea for a video actually, how do you get people's bad character in? It's not just all your previous goes in, you've got to persuade a judge that it's relevant under a number of one or more of what we call gateways. So it's things like, this would assist in determining an issue between the prosecution and defence. This shows propensity for this particular type of offending. This shows a propensity for dishonesty, all that sort of thing. So a caution can actually go in. Cautions are spent very, very quickly. If you're under 18, a caution is spent the second you get the caution. It's like, do you accept this caution? Right, you're now cautioned. That is now spent. If it's what we call a conditional caution, Okay, basically for the next 6 months, you've got to keep your nose clean, but if you keep your nose clean, you'll hear more and more about this. The caution is spent as soon as you get to the end of whatever the period is, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or whatever. If it's a fine, it's spent as soon as you actually pay the fine. Also, interestingly, a lot of the military offences, because I used to do all the court-martial stuff, and interestingly, a lot of the military offences, which you wouldn't have the civilian equivalent of, because it's not like you're ever going to get done for not shaving, but they have similar rehabilitation periods as well. But once somebody is, rehabilitated and it's a spent conviction, yes, it is defamatory to ever refer to it. Because it's funny, I keep mentioning about a particular royal who I think is the coolest royal because they have a criminal record. But technically, that conviction is now spent, so I won't mention it because I don't want to get sued by any major royals. But as always, hope you found that vaguely interesting, vaguely accurate, vaguely informative. Where am I today? I'm just up at Tresillian at the head of the river, but I shot up here because for once I remembered to time it with the river being high, so you're not just staring at the mud flats. I was trying to get you all the swans and things in the background for a little bit of nature. There were a couple of ducks around. I did try throwing them some pasty crumbs, but they just ignored me. Charming. And here's me, friend to all living creatures.